If you look back at data analytics over the last few years, the biggest, most important change, it wasn't some flashy new technology. It wasn't faster software or a smarter algorithm. No, it was something much quieter and honestly, way more profound. It was a revolution in how we think.
In this quote, this right here is pretty much the core of this whole explainer. The idea that analytics is now a thinking discipline, not a software skill set. I mean, the battle to just prove you can use the tools, that's over. That's table stakes now. The new frontier, where all the value is, it's all about how you think, how you question, and how you frame problems. It's a totally different ballgame.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, let's break it down. In the past, you can think of the analyst as a kind of translator. They'd take raw data and turn it into charts. Pretty straightforward. But today, now they're more like an architect, a decision architect. They don't just answer the immediate questions someone throws at them. They're in the room helping design what's even measure in the first place. And this is huge. They're the ones who know when to pump the brakes and say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't use data for this decision.
And that brings us to our first big idea here. Let's call it a quiet revolution. It's all about moving from simple data collection to something much tougher, data judgment. I mean, just think about it for a second. Collecting data, that part's pretty much automated now, right? It's just streaming in constantly from all over the place. So the bottleneck has completely shifted. It's no longer, hey, do we even have the data? The real question, the one that keeps people up at night, is do we actually trust it? Where did this come from? What are we not seeing? And who benefits from that blind spot? These are the questions that define analytics today.
All right, section 2, smarter tools, higher stakes. Now, of course, a massive catalyst for this whole shift was the explosion of AI, right? And it wasn't just about speeding things up. It fundamentally changed the game and raised the stakes for the entire profession.
For a hot minute there, everyone was panicking. The big fear was that these new AI co-pilots, the ones that could write code and spit out dashboards in seconds, were going to make human analysts obsolete. But that's not what happened. Not at all.
So, what did they do then? If they didn't kill the role, what was the actual impact? Well, what they really did was shine a giant spotlight on a critical weakness in just letting the machines run wild.
They produced, and I love this phrase, confident nonsense. Think about that. The AI could generate a chart that was technically perfect, or a prediction that was statistically sound, but it was completely, utterly disconnected from business reality. Why? Because it had zero human context, zero skepticism. It didn't know how to frame the problem.
And this right here is the key takeaway. The rise of these powerful AI tools actually forced analysts to change their job description. They weren't supposed to be a data factory anymore, just churning out charts and reports on an assembly line. No, their new job was to become a filter, a human filter applying critical thinking and real narrative clarity to this absolute flood of automated stuff coming from the machine.
So, Section 3 is all about this new human toolkit, because this new role, it demands a completely different set of skills. The analysts who are really crushing it today, their value isn't just about what coding language they know. It's about their toolkit of thinking models.
And this slide really nails the shift. The old question was simple: what does the data say? But the new, much more powerful question is, what system produced this data, and how is that system changing? See the difference? Great analysts understand that data isn't some magical truth. It's just a shadow cast by a real-world process. And if that process is messy or broken, you better believe the data will be too. This brings us to another huge idea. Metrics lost their innocence. Yep, we're talking about KPIs, key performance indicators. For a long time, we treated them like these pure, objective measures of truth. Not anymore. Now they're viewed with a whole lot of suspicion, and for good reason. So, why are we so suspicious all of a sudden? Well, probably because we've all lived through it, right?
The moment a metric becomes the only target, things get weird. People start gaming the system just to hit the number, even if it's bad for the business long term. It leads to burnout, and it forces everyone into this super narrow, short-term way of thinking.
Which is why this new skill has become so valuable: metric design or metric governance. The best analysts aren't just building dashboards anymore. They're designing entire measurement systems. And the goal is totally different. It's not about being clever. It's about designing metrics that are really hard to cheat and super easy for everyone to understand. Clarity over cleverness every single time.
And the last piece of this new toolkit is about storytelling. But look, it's not the kind of storytelling you might think. It's not just about presenting a pretty chart and saying, here's the answer. A really good analysis today actually frames a decision space. It has to answer 3 things. 1. Why does this trend matter right now? 2. What could totally break this conclusion? You got to be honest about the risks. And 3. What specific decision does this insight actually help us make? It has to be actionable.
Now, once you start designing how entire companies make decisions, you run headfirst into a new reality. This whole evolution, it's not just about being more strategic, it's about responsibility. And that's why ethics has gone from being this kind of optional, philosophical thing you talk about once a year to a core part of the daily grind.
And this didn't just happen out of nowhere, right? It was a perfect storm of new privacy laws, new AI regulations, and honestly some very public, very embarrassing screw-ups that forced the whole industry to grow up. So what started as a reaction to all this outside pressure, well, now it's just a standard baked-in part of the job.
And I want to be clear, this isn't some abstract, hand-wavy idea. We're talking about concrete, routine stuff, like running regular bias audits on your models, making sure your data usage is actually aligned with user consent, creating transparency reports that explain in plain English how a model is making its decisions. And maybe most importantly, the analyst's job is now to ask those uncomfortable questions early in a project, not waiting until after something's already on fire.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together for our final section. Judgment, not just numbers. What's the real point of all this? What's the true purpose of data analytics now? At the end of the day, it all boils down to one thing: making human judgment better, not just spitting out more numbers.
There's a name for this emerging field: decision intelligence. And its mission is crystal clear. The goal is not to replace human judgment with some all-knowing algorithm, it's to discipline our judgment. I kind of like to think of it as a coach for your brain, right? It uses data and structured thinking to make your intuition sharper, stronger, and just more reliable.
So what does disciplining judgment actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon? It means using analysis as a speed bump for our impulsive gut feel decisions. It's the thing that forces us to slow down for a second, question our own biases, and shine a light on all those hidden assumptions we don't even realize we're bringing to the table. And this next quote, man, this might be the most important lesson in this whole thing. We have this tendency to think data will give us the certain answer, that it'll just erase all the uncertainty. It doesn't. It never does. What good data does is reshape your uncertainty. It points you to where the real risks are, where the biggest unknowns are hiding, so you can focus your limited human judgment on the things that actually matter.
And you know, the ultimate outcome of all this is kind of fascinating. When you do analytics this way, it doesn't just make an organization smarter because it has more answers. It actually makes it humbler. It makes the whole organization more aware of what it doesn't know. And that awareness, that humility, that's the real sign of progress.
So I'll just leave you with this one last question to chew on. Take a hard look at your own team, your own company. Are you guys still running a data factory? Just focused on cranking out reports and dashboards? Or are you starting to build a decision architecture, something that's focused on improving the quality of thought itself? Because I promise you, the answer to that question is going to define your success for a long, long time.